When I heard about the theme of empathy, I thought surrogate motherhood essentially in its core, at its what do you say, it essentially surrogate motherhood is actually empathy, and the whole surrogacy arrangement as such, I thought to explain to you in a manner which relates to empathy. Because surrogate motherhood, I don't know, I think most of us know about it like something which is very commercial, something it's something, a money which is paid for 9 months to a woman and all those things. And it is looked at as a very commercial, contractual thing, and bits and pieces we hear in the news or in media and all those things. But then I thought, while I did my research and I interacted, like Karishma spoke, I interacted with around 33 surrogate mothers in Bangalore. I also interacted with a lot of people who drafted the law at ICMR and other people in Delhi, as well as a lot of NGOs are involved in critiquing of the law, as well as, the process, because as we all know, surrogacy does not have as such any binding law in India. We have a bill. When a law is in the making, we call it a bill. So there's a bill which is pending, but as such, there is no law. So I interacted with a lot of NGOs who are working on it and critiquing it, and they are saying, they have different things to say about surrogacy. And then I met certain couples, usually the couples, or I mean to say, I usually look at them as IP. In the presentation also, you will see the term IP. IP is basically intending couple. Some places you also call them commissioning couple, because they're the people who initiate surrogacy. So I interacted with a few of them, and then I realized that the whole interrelationship, the surrogacy arrangement, is actually a relationship of empathy between the couple, between the surrogate mother, and sometimes surrogate mother's husband and surrogate's own family and children, and the couple's children, basically, if at all. Like some of the couples, they go for surrogacy as in when they want to have a second child. So basically the whole idea is the relationship is of empathy between the two. In my presentations, I will just bring about these relationships in how it is manifest in surrogacy arrangement. Now, since I've introduced the whole idea, I'm looking at surrogacy is through empathy and through relationships of empathy between the couple and the surrogate mother and families. So I'll just begin with how and what empathy, first beginning with the understanding of empathy, basically, like how empathy, how we look at it. Basically, empathy, what it means, that when we share other people's plight, when we look at or when we similarly internalize, right, that is what is empathy. There would be, I think, 1 minute or 2 minutes given to each slide so that you can have a look at it, and some of the keywords I've highlighted. Now, when we look at surrogacy, in simple terms, right, surrogacy is what? Surrogacy is just to substitute, basically somebody who does the job of another person. Now, if you look at the empathy and surrogacy, basically, empathy is carried forward by surrogacy. Empathy is like when we internalize the problems of the other, so when we share the similar issues with them. And surrogacy is like when the person not only internalizes, but steps forward to act in place of yours. Just an instance, in any surrogacy arrangement, since I have done some research, most of the time the women who are recruited to be surrogate mothers, it's not just the money that they are looking forward. Of course, it's a huge incentive and huge prime reason, but most of the time they are convinced, the agencies, the surrogacy agencies or the surrogacy agencies usually are the ones which are the infertility clinics or the IVF clinics. They will have their staff and all, and they usually talk to the surrogate mothers. There's a round of counseling there. Counseling basically to convince them as to why they should be surrogate mother. And one of the prime thing is that it will actually help and bring you satisfaction. It is an act of benevolence. So basically, the surrogate mothers are convinced that this is a very noble and charitable act, okay? And the money which is paid to you, it is, of course, it's just like any other services. Most of the IVF clinics, they will have counselors. There's a entire chamber which is dedicated to the counselors, and the counselor basically talk about the money which is given to you is actually you can say compensation for your gestational pregnancy, and it's just like any other job like nursing. That's how they are made to understand. And they said that, in Mahabharata, in all your Bibles and all those, there is instance of surrogacy. So you are actually doing a great job. You're actually doing a charitable job. Just think of the plight of the couple who cannot have children, and you are helping them. So this whole idea is built around them that, you are doing a great job. You're doing, and the surrogate mothers also, for their own self-confidence or for their own faith, they say that we are doing a great job. For people like, we are giving them children. we're giving them such a big gift, no money can buy. So that is how I look at it to begin with. Now, I just realized in my study that empathy and surrogacy have certain, I mean to say, there's a lot of confluence. There are like the basic thing about empathy and surrogacy is that the surrogate is empathetic to the biological needs of the couple. The very idea, because every woman realizes and feels that, how significant a motherhood is. If she's trying to be mother and she's, trying every means to it for medicines and other things and she fails. Then the surrogate mother, because she herself would have had a kid already, because in most of the surrogacies in India as well as in the world, there's one crucial requirement that in order to be surrogate mother, usually you have to be above 20 or 21 and above. You have to be the citizen of that country where you are acting as surrogate. Like in India, whoever I interacted with in Bangalore also, most of the surrogate mothers are from here. At the most, there were some women from Tamil Nadu or Kerala and other places, but they cannot be outsiders, right? Third thing is they have to have at least one child. Okay, they have to have one child so that they internalize what is motherhood. Okay, it cannot be for a woman who's 25, let's say, she's an Indian citizen, she's all healthy, and but she wants to be surrogate. If she's not married and she has to have one kid, because in the whole process of surrogacy, the surrogate mother's husband's consent is also required. In case if she's a widow, then they take the consent of her brother or her mother or father, anybody in that family. So basically, the whole thing is that the initial round of convincing and counseling the surrogate is worked around the idea that since you are a mother, you should know the burden when the other woman feels when she's not having a kid and how difficult life is to be infertile. And particularly in our Indian society, there is a lot of social, name calling and other stuff, and associated with the fact that if you're barren or if you're not, you're not able to have a child. So this whole things are built around, and the surrogate mother is therefore convinced that you're doing a great job and you're doing actually a godlike job for these couples. You're giving them children. So out of this empathy, the surrogate actually undertakes the fact of being the surrogate mother or the gestational carrier. Now again, the intending couple, when they are introduced to the surrogate, the whole process of introducing and all these things usually done by the infertility clinic. Actually, the infertility clinic is approached by the couple when they want to have a child, and then they look for a surrogate, and then they introduce and all those things and respectively counsel them. So when the intending couple is introduced to the surrogate, the intending couple is also convinced that you should take this lady as a surrogate because she's poor, okay, because she is someone who needs a lot of money or at least some amount of money to run her basic household stuff and to support the education of children and all those things. And these couples are told that since you are well off, since you can have so much of money to afford this kind of a technology, you should be also thinking of the fact of paying a decent amount of money to this woman, okay. And again, the intending couples are also convinced about the whole idea of helping the poor women. They are not told that you are hiring this womb, okay, like how in the media and everywhere we write the whole, it's very easy to write. This one entered into a contract, this one is paying so much, but it is not like that. Mostly the intending couple are also convinced that this woman, she will be committed to you, she will not run away or she will not do anything harm to the child because she needs the money. Like, and then they are told, since you are well off, you should realize how important it is, how important this money is for this poor woman who need it, let's say for, running her household, for supporting the education of children. So basically they are brought on a common ground of empathy. This one is told that, you should help her, you should help this couple because they don't have a children and you have this, and the couple is told reciprocally that you have wealth, you have everything, you should help this woman. Okay, so they are brought on these lines. So basically this entire empathy relationships I have identified at 3 stages. It works out or it plays upon in surrogacy arrangement. The first is the whole process of consent formation. Okay, it's not very easy for the surrogate mothers to consent. I interacted with around 33, 35 surrogate mothers, and first of all when I met them, they were not even willing to look at me or to speak. So I was just wondering if these women are like that, how are they even agreeing to meet the hospital staff and the strangers, and most of them are foreigners and all those things. So how do they interact? And most of them in Bangalore, let me tell you, they are the sari factory workers, the garment factory workers. I mean, out of 35 I interviewed, I think around 29 of them are garment factory workers, okay? And these women, I asked them, like initially that, like I'm not going, and they're very concerned about their issues of privacy and all. They think their pictures will be put up and all those things. And so when I assured them that their pictures are not going to go out and all those things when I spoke, so I asked them, like, how did you get to know about it, first place? And second thing, how did you agree? Because, the entire surrogate pregnancy has a lot of risk. It is, by nature, it is an IVF pregnancy, which I'll be discussing in my later slides as to what are the risks or what are the health issues that they have to face while being a surrogate. But overall, what I'm trying to say here is the surrogate motherhood is just not another pregnancy, like a normal pregnancy. It has inherently certain risks, okay? So for a woman like that, and usually these women are somebody who are, most of them are school dropouts. Some of them have, like, they've never been to school. And most of them are like 4th or 5th standard educated. They could hardly scribble something, their name in Kannada, because when we do our research, as per Ph.D. norms, we have to take their informed consent. So that is how, when we make them sign that, this is what I'm going to ask you and you are answering this and all those, then I realized while I'm taking the signature, not many could even write their names in Kannada properly. Okay, so I realized that this is their plight. Okay, so for them, it is even difficult, like how do they get into this kind of a thing, like as technical as, a contract, because in order to be a surrogate, they first sign the contract, then they go through the entire IVF, the artificial insemination and all those things. So I asked them, and these women are like, no, they were told that, we are doing as good a job as, like how Devaki helped Lord Krishna's birth. So we are also doing similar job, So they're like, it is in our epics to do this. And most of these women said similar things like this. So I realized that they are kind of being defensive about themselves because, they want to show that, we are doing we are actually feeling for them. And most of these women said that, isn't it a great job that we are doing? You should write about it. She, in fact, suggested me that you should write good things about us. People write bad things about us. And she's like, you should say that we are doing as good job as Devaki did in Mahabharata for the birth of Lord Krishna. She cared for him, she gave birth and all those things. And she's like, we are also doing similar job. We are feeling for the couple. Who else feels for the couple? And she's like, and one lady, she had given birth already to a couple. And they had given twin girls. That lady had given twin girls. And she was saying that though she couldn't see the twins, she gave birth because the hospital norms are like that when you have a children, you have to be, as soon as the surrogate delivers the baby, they take it away and they give it to the couple. So she was like, later on I saw the pictures, I felt very nice, that, what a great job I have done. And she's like, my husband also respects me for it. I bring money and I'm doing such a noble job. And most of them, they link themselves to the nurse. And the whole consent formation process at their head, it works at empathy level. It doesn't work at the money level. They are like, see, we could have done prostitution also if it was just for the sake of money. But we're doing it because we also feel for the couple. We have children and we want to give to other couples also. Now, secondly, like I explained to you, the most of the intending couples, like I interacted with one while I was at this clinic. I used to be visiting this clinic very often, like whenever they used to give me permission, and I used to wait around and see who comes, who goes and all. Even if it is easier to talk to surrogate, but couples, they never interact because they're very scared that, because it's something to do with their infertility issues and all. And they're very scared that we might just ask them that, why are you doing surrogacy or what? And this is a very private issue. So one of the couples said they were from, I think, Canada or something, yeah. And they were, they were NRIs actually. And I spoke to them and they're like, he was asking me, I don't know why people write so bad things about surrogacy and all, womb renting and all. He's like, just think, he's like, see, I'm paying this woman so much of money. I'm also supporting this woman's children's education. He's like, I have given so much of cash besides the agreement to the father, okay, for supporting the surrogate mother's children back home. And he's like, so I'm helping, I'm getting a child, but I'm not making this woman's life hell or miserable. I'm helping her. So, and both of them, the couple as well as the surrogate, they are made to understand that, you people are helping each other. Like, the way, which is not what is written in the newspapers mostly. Like if you go to a surrogacy agency, IVF clinic, when you initially see how they interact and what they talk, it's nothing about money between the two of them. It is because the couple is very scared. What if the surrogate, at later moment, actually the couples are usually scared from beginning till the end till they get the child, because they are like, what if the surrogate asks more money? She doesn't give the custody of the child. What if, the mother develops some kind of a sickness and she may not have the delivery? Or what if the child develops some kind of a problem? Because let's say the surrogate women who I spoke of generally are not the kind of women who could distinguish between two sets of medicine. Most of the surrogate mothers are provided with a nurse, right? And when I asked them, like, how do you manage your medication? They said, no, the pink one I take in the morning, the yellow one I usually take in the afternoon, and the white one I usually take in the night. This is how they remember the medicines. So it's also, the couple is very scared in that way that, if she doesn't take her medication, if she doesn't eat well, it's going to affect their child in the womb, right? So they are, they're all the time they are trying to convince, whenever they meet the surrogate, if at all, they usually convince that, you are helping me, please take care of my baby is within you. So actually the money part never comes in between them. When the relationship of surrogacy enters into or takes place, it's more like empathy. The couple says that I will take care of your child, I will provide you enough money, but you take care of your health, right? So this is how the whole empathy relationship is working between them. Now the third phase of empathy comes in when the surrogate mother is in the later half of her pregnancy, when the child starts developing within the womb. What happens is, like any other motherhood, she will definitely feel the movement of the child within her womb, right? So she definitely feels attached. In many of the studies and many of the research, the people who have interviewed the NGOs, or maybe a lot of people who are doing research, they've interviewed the surrogate mothers. When we ask them, they say we have 3 children, 2 at home, 1 is here inside the womb. Like, they cannot break away from the idea that this child is not genetically, though it is not genetically theirs, but they still feel that since I'm giving birth, the whole idea is like the child is within her womb and she's eating, and the whole idea of nurturing the child, like, through umbilical cord, the whole concept is like that in their head, that no, since I'm the one who's provided the womb, I'm the one who's going to give birth, so this child is also mine. So she has a certain amount of a bonding with the child. It's not like they do not want to see the child, and or they realize that, okay, this child is not mine and I totally disassociate with the child. Most of the surrogates, they have said that we would want to meet the child. Like a lot of surrogates who've given birth also, I've spoken to them, they're like, no, we wish to meet the child, see how it has developed, okay? They are like, they even say that, it would be nice if the couple, whoever we gave birth and all to, and they're like, if they could send us a picture or they make us talk to the child over the phone. It's not that they are willing to take away the child, okay, because they themselves are poor. They don't have the money to raise their own family. What will they take this child? But the whole idea is sometimes they would want to bond with the child. They would want, like, immediately after birth, maybe they want to hold the child. One lady, she said that, she gave birth to the girl twins, and then she said, I felt very bad. When I was unconscious after pregnancy, they had already taken the child away. And she's like, I felt very bad because they should have at least shown me the child, waited for me, recover, and I would have held the child, I would have seen, maybe clicked a picture and done something. And she's like, you want to express your care. It's something like this. You have even animals, okay, let's say, when animal also, a mammal gives birth, right? You cannot immediately separate. It is something against mother nature. Like in sociology and psychology, if you study, there's a whole concept of the understanding of a mother nature. Like immediately after birth, you should not separate the the birthing mother and the child. So this woman felt very bad, and she was like, this is the reason I decided not to be surrogate again. She's like, they treated me very badly. They left the check, they did not meet me, they did not thank me, and they just took away the child. When I came back, she was like, when I was unconscious, all these things happened. And and there are other women also who complain of this, who said, like, in the studies they've said that treating us like that, most of the surrogates, they say that that's what makes us feel bad. We relate to the child, we have brought your child, so let us bond with the child a bit. So this is third level of empathy. Most of the surrogate mothers, they care for the child enough. It's not that in any woman, I think, when you have a baby inside you, to actually do things to destroy the baby. Most of them, they want to have the child and give birth the child in a healthy manner. So there is an emotional attachment. Like one lady was once saying that, I was asking her, like, how similar and how different it is. Like, you were pregnant, right? So how different it is? She's like, it's not different. The only thing is, I take a lot of medicines this time. I'm away from family. I'm in a hospital environment. And she's like, but nevertheless, as a child, it feels the same. She's like, I can still feel the movement and all those things. And a lot of them even, they have this thing, they guess for each other, girl will be there or boy will be there. They're not told. Usually they determine through, tests. But most of the surrogate mothers, they put in a dormitory kind of a thing, one bed after the other. And they guess for each other. Okay, they even put bets. Like this one will have a girl, this one will have a twins. I'm sure this one's baby is going to be healthy. So they bond with the child while they are gestating. Now, this is one case which I thought I will discuss on the whole issue of empathy, how significant it is. This is the first ever popular case of commercial gestational surrogacy in USA in the year 1987. Actually, this case, like these terms, gestational and commercial surrogacy, I'll be discussing later. Like when I'll explain in detail what exactly this whole surrogacy terms and all particular things are. So right now, let me just say that this is the first ever case of a surrogate mother. It was in US back in 1987. This was the first time ever that one couple, for the first time, entered into a contract, a formal contract. They hired a law firm and they said, you draft an agreement or a contract to say that, this woman will undergo certain procedures like artificial insemination. She will gestate, she will give birth, and then she will give up the custody of the child immediately after birth, and we pay her a certain sum of money. So this was the first time that there was a contract of this nature happening, because usually we are used to the idea that human beings as such are not made the subject of the contract. Something like, giving birth, something like certain things like, you cannot have a contract that this person and this person will marry as such, or these things, okay, like before the arrangement. So this was the first time ever this thing happened in USA, and it got huge popularity because of it. And this surrogate mother, she was again in West, the surrogate mother situation is not the same as in India. Surrogate mothers there are usually well off, and there's only one reason they're doing surrogacy is because empathy. For them, they have to be very convinced that the couple will take care of the child very well, and they receive an undertaking from the couple that the couple will support the child, couple will not leave the child, or if there is some kind of a disease which develops in the child, they will still manage and they'll take care of the child. So basically in the West, the surrogate mothers are not the ones who are poor and all and they need money, so they're doing it for that reason. This lady, Mary Whitehead, she said that she was actually introduced to this couple and this couple wanted a child. So she interviewed them personally, she spoke to them, and she also saw there in the West they have something called a socioeconomic background study of the couple as to, like what sort of people are they generally, what are their occupation, what are their habits, what is their sexual orientation generally, or what sort of family they're going into. In the West, it is much more developed. It is running more like lines of adoption. Like just before adoption, you have to go a whole round of screening, like, what's your source of income, how much is the income, how many family members, is there divorce in the family. In India, it is not yet taken place. That's a different issue. But this lady, for the first time, she met the couple and she said the sole reason why she's doing it because she wants to experience motherhood. Also, she felt for the couple because they were desperately trying to have a child and they were failing. So she decided to be the surrogate mother. And but this lady, she got too emotionally attached with the child, and this was a girl child, and she felt that this girl child is actually talking to her, like in her own internalizing of the whole thing. She said that she's really bonded with the child a lot and she cannot now part. She needs some time with the child. Okay, she cannot give the child as she has signed in the contract earlier, before the birth, that she will give the child immediately. After the birth, she could not do it. Basically, what happened is then she filed a suit because the couple took the child. She said that, I will now file a suit that I will bring a legal action. She went to the court. She filed a case at the New Jersey, trial court. And she said, I am the one who's given birth. I am the one who has nurtured the baby through umbilical cord for 9 months. So I deserve to have a claim over the child. And then she went through the whole process of bonding and all those things, empathy with the child and all that. And then she realized that, okay, she may not want to have the child to support the child, but she said that nevertheless, I want to have the visitation rights over the child. I want to be identified before the child that I am his nurturing mother or the woman who gave birth. She was not okay with the idea that, she would be just, passed off. Like, as she wanted the child should recognize, the child should come and meet. I mean, the surrogate and the child should meet. And she claimed for all these rights. This case went to the New Jersey appellate court. First it was the trial court, then the case went to the appellate court. And she fought very strongly for the grounds of motherhood. And then the court also could not say that, being a mother, the court cannot say that you have to, give away the child and you take this much of money. She was okay to let go of the money, but she was like, no, I cannot be not identified before the child. And then the court said finally that, okay, the child has to be given some visitation hours and, they should be given some, like every month or every hour, like in the cases of divorces and all that happens, that she should be identified as, nursing mother or a nurturing mother. She should not be just called as a gestational carrier. And second thing is that she got a proper full visitation rights on certain months. So this is how it happens. So it's not that, it's just the money that we're looking at. It's more driven with empathy. Like most of the time, surrogate mothers are driven by empathy for the surrogate child. So now, this is what my research, also, as I'm trying to show, that, that the whole concept of surrogacy is so much looked at, marketable and commercial and all those things. It needs to be looked at more from the empathy. Like, we need to have an empathic treatment of surrogate mother. Like in the case of baby M, New Jersey, which I just discussed, basically, what we're trying to say is the surrogate mother should not be called for the first thing as, just the womb or, some gestational carrier or some kind of a renting machine or baby breeders. I mean, you see media, they write such stuff, baby breeders and that kind of a thing. So we do not want that. We want that they should be also, why not recognize them as, nurturing mother or somebody who's just raised a child or, we call our nurses sisters and all. Why not give them a little more empathy and respect for what they're doing? And then again, the whole idea of respecting the surrogate mother, like they are the ones who are the people in surrogacy arrangement with a higher empathy, who feel for other people and then they undergo the entire risk of the pregnancy for them, right? So, that's what I've said. The surrogate mother should be recognized as caring or nurturing mothers. The whole idea has to be redefined and relooked at from a little bit of human perspective, something from empathy, not just commercial and contractual terms. This is how we see them, right, in the media and all. This is how we project them as surrogate mothers. Now, before I go into another issue, which is basically, are we empathizing enough with the surrogate mothers or do they need our empathy? A lot of people say, why empathize with surrogate mothers? They're just doing a job and we're paying them and that's it. Why should they feel that, why should, if at all they feel for the child, because it is our child, it is biologically related to the couple and all those things. So my issue is like this now, which I seek to address is, like, do we need to empathize, if at all, with the surrogate mothers? And the present scene and context. Let's not go to the West. Let's look at what is present, like the situation of the Indian surrogate mothers. That we're talking of, I'm talking from my experience in Bangalore. And I have seen some reports from Gujarat and other places of some of the NGOs. So before that, before addressing this issue, that do we need to empathize, I think I'll just discuss in detail as to what exactly is surrogacy and what the surrogate mother has to go through in the entire process of surrogacy. Surrogacy was actually derived from the Latin word surrogatus, which means to substitute, which was there. And now, this is how it is defined in the legal dictionary also, and in the bill which I was talking about, Assisted Reproductive Technologies Bill, which is a law in the making. That's how they define it basically. It's just an arrangement in which, again, just notice it is an arrangement. It is not given that it is a contract as such. It is basically an arrangement where a woman agrees to undergo pregnancy through this particular IVF technology, okay? And wherein none of the gametes belong to her. This is very important. Many of the people think the surrogate mother is using her own egg. That's not the thing. She is actually just getting an implant of two gametes, like the male and the female gametes, the fetus, everything. This male and the female gamete need not be even of the couple necessarily. That can be of some other donors. Egg, like we have seen, like there's a movie, right? Wiki donor, like that. We have egg donors also. In fact, there's a huge demand for egg donors, right? So there can be other people whose biological gametes are implanted in the surrogate mother. And she has no intentions of carrying it. That's what in the beginning they say that, you know what, you do not want to have the child. You want to give away the child. You're just doing the nursing job. So that's how these 3-4 things are involved. And basically her willingness to give the child to the couple. In the surrogacy arrangement, what happens is there are only two parties. One is the surrogate mother on one side, the other one is the intending couple. And the child becomes a part of it because though it is not born as such, but it is the main objective the whole agreement and the whole arrangement subjective. So there are only two parties. Mostly the clinics and the lawyers who are a part of the process are only facilitating it. In the agreement as such, I've seen many surrogacy agreements, there are only two parties to it, the surrogate mother and the couple, and there is no other party or any other person. The clinic and all does not participate. Now, I'll just explain to you the forms of surrogacy. Okay, this is important because we need to know which surrogacy is actually being practiced in India. So there is this one gestational, one traditional. Gestational is the one where I just said the surrogate mothers need not be biologically related to the child. Their gametes, I mean to say the surrogate is not using her own gametes. They are they have an egg donor, sperm donor, and then they have usually the man in the relationship, I mean the couple, he donates his sperm, and usually the wife, in most of the cases in India that we see, the wife is not necessarily the egg donor. They hire another egg donor, they pay for it, and they pay a certain amount of money and they outsource this eggs. Most of the times I've seen in many clinics, there's a huge demand for egg donors from Russia and from European countries, because they will have white skin, because they will have long legs and all those things, and they'll have beautiful features. So they usually allow the eggs, or in some cases even the sperms, to be frozen and taken outsourced from other countries. Like in the case of Shah Rukh Khan's third child, Abram, the surrogate child, he's born, like he's got a third surrogate child. He's already had two children. He got a third surrogate child. In that itself, there was this lady, Varsha, and she runs a NGO in Bombay. Bombay is the place where I used to work. So I happened to meet her, and she filed a case in the courts saying that there were evidences that Shah Rukh Khan he definitely donated his sperm, but the egg is actually outsourced from some European countries, and the child who's born to Shah Rukh Khan, the third child, if you see, when you see that, the features don't match also. The child is way too fair, golden hair, and all those things. If you would have noticed in any of the movies, in one of the movies he was featured also, and there was this case was pending, and this case went on. I think it's still going on. Okay, initially the Bombay High Court sent notice to Shah Rukh Khan and asked, but in the entire process, what happened is that there was a lot of delay in checking the samples and other things. So what happened is the lab details and all could be taken only later half. So this lady who filed, the NGO lady who filed the case, she said that the evidences were tampered with and all that. But anyways, that's not the issue. The issue was like basically that the surrogate mother is not related and her gametes are not being used. Basically, they are being outsourced. It could be outsourced from somebody who is in India, or it could be from somebody who is abroad. In India, we have a law which permits outsourcing of the frozen gametes. So this is not something illegal. So, and then again, traditional surrogacy. Traditional surrogacy is when the surrogate mother herself is biologically related. Let's say that it is her own egg when it is used. And this is what I was talking about, the whole IVF pregnancy, in vitro fertilization, and the artificial insemination, gestational surrogacy. Basically, they take the egg and the sperm, they fuse it in the test tube, make a fetus, and then they implant into the uterus of the surrogate mother. So basically, there is no way that she is biologically connected. This is the most safest way, because in the law also, if you are biologically connected to the child in DNA test, if it proves, then it will be very difficult for the court to say that this couple is the parent and not the surrogate mother. If surrogate mother shows that she has born the child plus she is also biologically, or by DNA also she says that they are biologically connected, then it becomes very difficult. So this is the safest way of doing surrogacy, the gestational surrogacy basically. Now we have another one, altruistic and commercial surrogacy. Now commercial surrogacy, as we all know, is basically based on the contract. It is actually contractual and commercial surrogacy. They enter into a contract, and the entire details of the commercial surrogacy arrangement are entered into the agreement as to when they will pay a certain sum of money, or as to what will be the breakup of the payment. Mostly in the commercial surrogacy, the agreement plays a crucial role, because it is where they say that, in the first few months, in the first trimester, you will be paid so much. Or there is I have seen the surrogacy agreements, they are usually like this. On the confirmation of the pregnancy, they are given a huge initial lump sum amount. Then there are other sums of payment which are made to them if they gain weight, let's say, during the process. And then after, and when they finally go through the entire process of, scanning and all, implantation and everything, and if the child is developing, they get another bonus. And then finally, towards the end, they get a major amount when they surrender the child. So this is the entire breakup of the surrogacy, commercial surrogacy agreements. And in India, we have gestational and commercial surrogacy. Now, I said in the beginning, right, that there is no law. But I'm also saying that India legalizes. How India legalizes is because the Supreme Court, in a particular case of Japanese surrogate child, baby Yamanda Manaji, where they have spoken that Supreme Court said that in India, even though there is no law, but there is equally no bar for prohibiting surrogacy. While we do not have a law, but the court said, but there's nothing wrong also, or there's nothing which prevents surrogacy from taking place. And then the court went on to explain few of the grounds that we have women who are willing to be surrogate, we have expertise in the medical branch, we have hospitals, we have medical tourism policy which promotes, we have a medical tourism policy from which government earns a lot of revenue. So the court said basically that there is nothing wrong in legalizing or permitting it. So this is how it is now. In that particular case of Japanese surrogate child, it was of year 2008, baby Yamanda Manaji versus Union of India. In that case, the Supreme Court finally said that India does allow or legalizes surrogacy. So in India, when we say surrogacy is legal, what we are saying is gestational and commercial surrogacy is legal. Okay. Not the traditional ones and not the altruistic ones and all those things. Basically, surrogacy, if it has to take place, it has to be usually in the form of a contract and then not related, gamete-wise not related to the surrogate mother. And this is the whole process of entering of the surrogacy agreement. First, the couple who wants or initiates or wants to have the child, initially before this fertility clinic or at this time of fertility clinic when they visit, what happens is they are made to go through a certain number of tests to show that they are medically not in a position to have a child of their own. And then they go through a certain number of tests, and then the test says that yeah, they are, so and so and reproductively challenged for medical reasons, and then therefore they initiate surrogacy, and the clinic initiates the agreement between the two parties. It is the clinic which provides the forum. The clinic has usually mostly lawyers of its own. They hire lawyers and they provide it to the couple. And then the couple and the lawyer, they discuss the whole issue of surrogacy between them as to, what are the, let's say, preferences or what are the choices of the couple, what they would intend. Usually if the couple is from a foreign country, the couple says that, let me have the pregnancy or let me have the implantation process start, let's say, in the month of March, let's say. And he will say it because, or because he has only after 9 months or he has this duration of visa permit, because it has to be determined by their visa permit. Like, if he has a visa permit of so many months, so he will say that, let's have the implantation process in my presence and, let me be in India for this time. And then these are some of the crucial things which the couple will discuss with the lawyer, and this is how they, go about the whole surrogacy agreement. And then at the time of receiving the child, that's again a crucial issue. Many couples, they may not have a visa for extended 9 months, or they want to go back in between. They first want to come at the clinic, go through the test, donate their gamete if they are healthy, and then enter into the agreement. Then they say that let's have a baby, the entire process, let it start from a certain month, because during that time I will be available. If I am not available, my wife will come, or they will send their local guardian or somebody to receive the child. So for discussing all these issues, mostly priority is given to the intending couple, because he's the one paying the clinic, he's the one paying the lawyer. In the whole process, surrogate mother doesn't feature much in the initial, issues of drafting of the surrogate agreement, like what goes into the agreement. Yeah, so this is usually the kind of agreement forms, and you can see the agreement value is so less, somewhere 10, somewhere 100. This is again a very sad thing that I have to bring out, because most of the surrogacy arrangements, the way they are taking place, because there is no law, mostly the surrogacy agreements have drafted a very lesser value. And these surrogate mothers initially have no clue in the process of negotiation as to what should go into the agreement. They do not feature it. Mostly it is between the clinic and the couple, and the clinic reads it out to the surrogate mother, because usually they are the ones who are not definitely familiar with English. They're definitely not the people who are familiar with banking instruments, like, what is check, what is demand draft, what is this, what is agreement, what is sale deed, they have no idea. So basically what the taking advantage of her background or whatever, this clinic as well as the lawyers, what they do is they draft a surrogacy agreement of very lesser value, right? And they make her sign, and this is how it is done, okay? And she just signs, and it's read out to her basically. Of course, she cannot have any means to read it. In Karnataka, they said that, they even showed me that in surrogacy agreements are being drafted in Kannada. Okay, so but I realized many of them do not even understand, even though I asked the surrogate mothers, like, do you know all these things? What is demand draft? What is check? What if the check bounces? Like I asked one of the surrogate mother, how do you get payment? She said, they pay the money in a form of check to my husband because I'm in the hospital. So I said, what if the check bounces? She's like, what is that? I said, it bounces, it doesn't have money. She's like, that doesn't happen. She's like, we trust God and we trust these people and they are very nice people and all those things, and it can never go that way. And I was like, but do you know, what was the last money you got? Because every installment is not the same. She's like, no, every installment is almost the same only. She's like, little bit of difference, major payment I will get only after the delivery. And she's like, I don't want to bother much because I want the money. She said, and I don't ask these questions. She's like, I give it to my husband. He takes care of it. And I'm here at the hospital because the child. So this is the stage that we are in. And I just realized there's not much of need for asking them many questions, because mostly these women, the way they are coming from, they are somebody who's like 5th standard, 6th standard, mostly they're working in garment factory or they are like domestic maid or something. How will you expect them also to understand, check bounce? And most of them do not even have bank account. I was like, how do they, if they give you a check, where does it go? She's like, my husband has, someone said, my brother has, it goes in that account. Some said we have bank account. Some women said they have. So that's how it is. That's how vulnerable they are. Yeah, so this is what I was trying to talk about in the beginning, that this is the issue that we're going to address. Like, are we empathizing enough with the plight of surrogate mother? Mostly in my discussions, I think I've brought out the kind of a picture of the surrogate mother that I'm talking about. And I think most of us can relate. Even in Bangalore, I think we all can relate that there is, a garment factory here, sari factory. Most of them, they are getting a very low payment of around 5,000 to 6,000. So most of these women and the kind of the background they come from, very difficult, for them to understand what they're going in for themselves. Okay, though they start on the empathy and all those nice virtues, but in the process, though between the couple and the surrogate, it is more empathetic, but there are a lot of agencies, the third parties and the middlemen, like, the clinic, the lawyers, the people who recruit the surrogate mothers, they are the ones who are making it a business, and they are the ones who are fooling both the parties more or less, and they're getting an advantage. So, and the condition they are put in, that is even worse, because it is again a state liability. It has nothing to do with the couple and the surrogate. It is more like the fact that we do not have a law, the fact that we do not have sufficient safeguards for them. The health risk, there is no health support because there is no law. Again, contractual issues, why not provide them a legal counseling? That is not there. That is again is something which has to be written in the law. Now, couple cannot necessarily provide. Couple can only pay for it. Couple cannot get a lawyer for the surrogate necessarily. But if it is in the law that provide, let's say, legal counseling, provide insurance, health insurance, and then, maybe, other safeguards, then the surrogacy becomes much more safeguarded and protected for the surrogate mother as well as the couple. So, given that kind of a background where they come from and how vulnerable they are, these are my issues, and which I have identified, that considering the background and the health risk, contractual and the family deprivation and the social exclusion, all these things, don't we need to kind of reconsider the whole idea of looking at it only from contractual perspective that, okay, I've rented your womb and I pay you money and, then it's over. Don't we need to do a little more additional than that? Basically, let's start from here. The whole idea, the way in which we are looking at in India is commercial surrogacy. So when you say commercial surrogacy, basically the whole idea, like, use of the terminology, baby breeders, baby carriers and wombs and all these things, basically, at the very basic itself, primate level, what it says, it particularly dehumanizes the process. The process which is so built on empathy and, on the human nature, it is actually taken totally against it. It is made to look at that is just another part or something or some machine or some apparatus that is borrowed and used and paid for. Now, I spoke of it, like the background they come from, and this is what I identified most of them. Even the studies which have been done in the north or which has been done in other parts of India, I basically found that these are some of the things which are very common across India. And in certain studies I found most of these women who are earning around 3,000 or 4,000 fall somewhere, or some of them, who are destitute. Let's say, like in Bangalore also, I met 3 or 4 of them. They were actually domestic maid, and they were not even in the full-time job of being domestic maid, and their husbands have left them. She said she's not divorced, but she said her husbands have left them. So they are managing the household and they're managing the family. So basically these women are like more or less destitute and living below the poverty line to support the family. And again, most of them, like I described to you, they cannot sign, they cannot read other languages, they definitely not English, they can only follow a bit of the local languages. And they are wage earners, more or less. Most of these women are unorganized sector. This is another feature that most of them, either they're working in some small shop and other things, they're wage earners. They're not somebody who's a salaried class or educated ones. And socially marginalized background, because most of them, the kind of the background they come from, okay, it's not necessarily that they had their ancestors or their families or whatever their surroundings have been privileged. Most of them are fighting the necessities and crises. So they are basically from socially marginalized background. And they are ones who are confined within the house. They are not somebody who's familiar with the banking and other transactions and all other things, or they are not the ones who are entering into agreement. They have no idea of entering into agreement or leading a legal document. Let's say they are not prepared for something like, to identify what is a sale deed or what is an agreement or contract. Now, having discussed the kind of the background they come from, basically, in many places it is said in the agreement also, it says that surrogate mother consents to being surrogate and then she's giving her consent. But we have to ask these questions to ourselves that, kind of the background they come from, can they really give a consent? When you cannot even identify, what is a demand draft, what is check bounce and all those things, can you actually give a consent? Do you even, and these kind of women, they are not at all familiar with what is IVF pregnancy, let alone, that is again a medical issue. They are not even in a position to understand those things. And secondly, these are the women who again do not have any alternative also. Like in any other job, they are getting 3,000 to 4,000. But here in surrogacy, like in Bangalore, they pay around 3 lakhs for 9 months, right? So for them, it's a huge amount of money with less than a year. So they look at it from that direction that if they're getting this money, they are not in a, when you're so desperate for something, you just want that thing, right? You do not go into calculating all this. And even if they want to, they will not be in a position to do it. Now, let's go into this health risk which I've been talking about, like the IVF pregnancy. It's called in vitro fertilization technique. Like I mentioned to you, this artificial insemination which take place. There's a lot of studies and by medical societies in India as well as in abroad, which identify that IVF pregnancies basically have certain inherent risks. They are basically surgical. They are the ones which never usually, the surrogate pregnancies you always see, they have always been C-section delivery. There never happens a normal delivery. And they're usually premature. They usually happen in 8 months. Okay, it doesn't happen in the full of 9 months. So basically it is invasive and surgical. It's also invasive because, while the implantation, there is certain surgery which is carried out sometimes to implant. So there are at 2 levels of surgeries involved, right? And then mostly surrogate pregnancy, you will see it always results in twins or triplets and all that, because the whole idea is they implant many eggs, like 3 to 5 eggs at a time, and they see which one of them survives within the womb. Not that every, fetus which has been put in the womb will survive. So they want to put 3 or 5 to see that at least 1 or 2 survives. So basically what happens is the body of the surrogate is burdened with a lot of health risks. So again, these are some of the other risks which have been identified. Like in Canada, as per some studies, they have identified 3 kinds of risk altogether, long-term, short-term and all, which I've quoted. And then again, like I said, that they have 3 to 5 eggs implanted, and obviously the couples don't want 5 children. So what they do, out of 3 to 5, they will select which one of the ones are very healthy or which have a chances of healthy growth, are more disease-free. Then they will abort. And it's called selective reduction. Selective reduction is nothing but a surgical abortion which they do at a much earlier level to eliminate the extra fetuses. So again, there is another kind of surgery happening upon her. There's another kind of a, whole process. There's another kind of a, elimination and surgery abortion taking place. Again, there are other issues also of the health. That is the no specified time gap between the previous pregnancy and the surrogate pregnancy. This is another crucial issue. Like, when did she have her own pregnancy and when did she become surrogate? Most of the surrogate mothers, if you ask, they're like, yeah, in 2010, this, that, they say it very vaguely. But in medical health, for your medical health, you need to know there has to be certain gap between your first pregnancy and the second pregnancy. And second, certainly for a pregnancy of this nature, which has so many medical procedures and surgeries, you need to have a sufficient time gap. They have to see the health is recovered or not. But in many clinics, there is not much record on, when was the surrogate's first pregnancy or last pregnancy, and when is this starting, what is the time gap and all those things. Okay. And another issue is that dosages of drugs which is given. Most of these clinics, they are functioning, they are not registered. Most of the nurses which are working or the staff which is working, not at every level the IVF expert comes and administers the drugs, right? The drug administration part is given to nurses or the staffs, right? And what they are administering or what kind of drugs they are doing, since there is no law, there is no body as such, like usually in most of the government, why we have a law is basically we appoint a monitoring body. When we have a monitoring body, they see to it that the whole process is regulated, there's maintenance of record. But in surrogacy, because of absence of law and because of no monitoring body as such appointed in the law, there's a lot of chances that sometimes to when they undergo the hormonal treatment, that is the implantation, before the implantation, to prepare the body for implantation, they give them some hormonal drugs so that their body is more responsive to receiving the implant. So that time there is a lot of cases that there's more of drugs than required. So that can even backfire. That is during and before pregnancy. Now after pregnancy, do you think that after undergoing so many surgeries and medications, does she not need any kind of extra post-delivery care? But in the agreement terminates as soon as she hands over the baby. But what about the health of the surrogate mother? Has it not deteriorated? Is it not going to be any less affected in in the near future? So there is no post-delivery care. There is of course no insurance, and there's no social security cover. Let's say that if surrogate mother dies in the process, right, while delivering. In pregnancy, again, it's a common thing. In pregnancy, that happens. Maternal mortalities do take place in normal pregnancy. Definitely in surrogate pregnancies, that also take place. But there is, again, no social security cover. And again, most importantly, surrogate mothers have no counseling as such. And the other issue is, if she wants to, let's say, terminate her pregnancy, maybe for some reason, what if, like one surrogate mother told me some kind of a story like this, that her own child developed some disease. She said some kind of a fever or something. I suspected to be dengue kind of a thing, because she didn't say that dengue, but she said it was like fever, and again, she wanted to go back. She wanted to end the surrogate pregnancy. She wanted to go home. She didn't want to continue in the hospital. She wanted to, because she was concerned for her own child. She's like, now I'm 6 months or 5th or 6th month of pregnancy. She's like, I do not want to continue. Not that I have anything bad, but I do want to look after my own child. This is not what I had intended. And she's like, my husband works in some factory or something. And she said he goes and he leaves it with my sister. My sister doesn't take care of the child. She has her own family. And she's like, so I want to go back. So, and she's like, I want to terminate this. And whatever money is, till 5 months, I will take that, or 4 months, and I'm willing to let go. But I want to go back home. But in the agreement, this is a crucial issue. They are not given this choice. There is no choice once you enter to withdraw from it. If at all you withdraw, there is only this thing that you will be paid certain amount of money. But in most cases, the way agreement is drafted is like this, that if you say that you want to terminate, it will be said that you are breaching the contract. Since you are breaching the contract, you are held liable to pay so much damages. Damages in the sense you will have to pay the couple, the surrogate has to pay the couple, let's say legal fee, medical fee and all that. And now where the surrogate will have so much of money? First of all, she came for the money's sake, right? So she cannot kind of give back the money. So she cannot even think of doing that, because most of the clinics will tell them that you will have a case, you will have a legal notice coming to you. Do you have a means? So in actual practical terms, the surrogate mother is not in a position to withdraw at all, whatever her family hardships are. Now, like I said, that considering the health risks, these are some of the reported death of the surrogate mother. I'm sure there may be many more, but the ones which I have found and seen in the newspapers, these are the ones. I saw that there has been a death of the surrogate mothers at 3 states. And this comment I felt very shocking, because it was in Gujarat. This surrogate mother died. And this surrogate mother who died, she left 2 children, okay? And it was such a pathetic sight, because even in the newspapers, this got covered. It was in Anand in Gujarat. This surrogate mother died, and the surrogate mother's own 2 children, they had come with the husband because they were very excited. The children were excited. After 9 months, the mother is coming home. So they are waiting for outside the operation theatre, and her dead body comes out. She's no more there. And they, on the other side, these two children are crying. On the other side, the couple is holding a foreigner. He was a foreigner. He was from some other country. So he's holding this baby. And he felt the sight was so bad. So he felt very much for the children, because he did not intend. He himself said that I did not intend that I will take away this children's mom and I will have a baby. So he gave from his, like, besides the agreement, he paid some amount of money for the children and he deposited. He said that, he will deposit for these children in the bank. But this is what the doctor has to say. The doctor said, when the people asked that, how come a death could take place, what is the reason and what are all these things, the doctor says that, basically there's a contract. If she signs it, she knows the risk, and there is no compensation, there is no law, no insurance. So this is it. So, there is no liability on us. Surrogacy contract issues, like I was talking about, most of the terms and conditions are written as per the choice of the couple. In the negotiation, it is more important that surrogate mothers are included. It's not that, when it shouldn't just come to her as signing. You have to involve her in the process of negotiation. Otherwise, all the provisions are written more or less to suit the couple. Like, even I've seen, like, the many provisions in the agreement are very weird. Like, they say that, if the couple wants to change the hospital, okay, and wants to change the location of the stay of surrogate, they can do it anytime, okay. I mean, you have to give a choice to the person who is, gestating, that, where, which, and even the delivery, the nature of delivery, you would want to have a say. Of course, it cannot be like, your say that, you have to have C-section delivery and you want it, it has to be. It is, of course, a medical thing, but you may be consulted. But what happens is it is written that, the kind of implantation, the kind of delivery, it will be all decided by the doctors in consultation with the couple. So what happens, in consultation becomes more or less the consent. They discuss with the couple and they do it. Like, if it is a premature pregnancy, if it is a multiple pregnancy, the surrogate mother's body is going to be affected. She's the one who's carrying it. So I think, in human rights, we have this thing, right to dignity, right to person, right to bodily integrity. From the basic core of it, what is happening in your body, you should definitely have a say. These are again some of the contractual issues, the payment issues again, okay, that provisions on the payment. Now, most of the surrogacy agreements in different states, they have different payment. Like in Bangalore, we have 3 lakhs for the surrogate mother. In Gujarat and Anand, they even pay 6 to 7 lakhs. And they pay, and there's no fixed amount of money. Let's say some of the couples who are foreigners or NRIs, they are paying huge amount of money. And then let's say somebody in Bangalore, like in Bangalore, there are many couples who are from India itself, they are doing surrogacy, or maybe from Bangalore, from the state itself. Of course, they do not have so much of money, so the amount they pay is a little lesser. So there is no defined amount. So this is again something very bad. So like one may be getting 6 lakhs, one gets even 3 lakhs. In Chennai, there were some women who said that they get only 2 lakhs or 1 lakh. So there's nothing is like, a part of standard fixed. It's like part of bargain. Like, and then there are these things, that if she puts on weight, then they give her a certain sum of bonus. And some other shocking things which I found in the clinic is like, if one surrogate goes, if she brings another surrogate to the clinic, she gets some 10,000 rupees. Because I was like, I saw 3 women and they were like related. I said, how are you, like sister-in-law and this one? She's like, no, I was the first one. Then I brought her this one. I brought this one. I got 10,000. She's like, then she brought another one. So she also got 10,000. So like, this also kind of thing. And then again, a lot of money process also takes place like this. Though she is paid 3 lakhs or whatever in the contract, or she is promised a certain sum of money, at the end what they do, they say that, since you required a lot of multivitamin because your health was very bad, or the clinic will say to the surrogate, you needed more medical attention, more nursing services, so we have to deduct a certain sum of money from your entire payment because we had to spend extra, okay. Like one surrogate told me that in my pregnancy, they had to incur a lot of expenditure. I said, like, in what? She's like, no, she said that I was very weak when I came. So initially they kept me into a lot of nutritional food and they gave me supplements and all. So they deducted the money of supplements from the entire amount of payment. So that's something. So again, that is something which they are, this is very arbitrary. They even increase, they even decrease. There is no fixed sum of payment. And these are some of the provisions which I just collected. There was this particular, if you could Google it online, there's this pro forma surrogacy contract. This is the Pulse is the name of the hospital, IVF clinic. Okay. And they had these provisions, and I have copied from their website. So that's why I have put it in italics. It's not something which I have put. So it's like, these are the kind of the provisions. If you read, you will see that, the surrogate agrees to undergo cesarean section, one or more amniocentesis, and all these things at the request of the parents, right? I mean, don't you have a choice? Should it not be written in the other form that considering the health of the surrogate mother, considering the consent and the willingness subject to all these things? It is mostly written like that. So these are again other provisions which clearly, they take away the liability of the couple as well as the doctor. So if in case anything goes wrong with the surrogate mother, there's no liability on the clinic and the couple. I was just talking about this thing that if she refuses any of the treatment, let's say if she says that I do not want to go through selective reduction, or if I do not want to have multiple pregnancy, it becomes like it's a breach of agreement, because you are not doing your part of the job and you are not performing as per your contractual promise, so you are actually held liable. So there is like doubly victimization of the surrogate mother. First of all, she's not consulted in the process what is written, and when she signs in, she's supposed to accept all of them. Now let's discuss a bit of the stay arrangement of surrogate mothers. This is similar to what is in Bangalore also. It's like a dormitory like this, exactly like this as you see. It's like beds, one after the other, and they have numbers also in some, and they have a nurse in the room, and they are the nurses who are supervising their food, if like every hours what they're supposed to eat, what medicines they're supposed to take. And from this arrangement, you can definitely make out they're definitely not staying with their own family and home for the entire duration of 9 months. In fact, a little earlier than that, before the hormonal treatment itself starts, before implantation, they take them to hospital and they make them stay there. So for 9 months, she's totally away from her home, children and whatever. And these are called usually surrogate hostels. Okay. In North, they usually call it with these terms like surrogate hostels or surrogate dormitories. The huge issue here is that while you keep the surrogate mother away from her own home and family, children, what happens to their children who they have at home? Who's looking after them? Is there any creche? There is no creche as such for their children. And most of the surrogate mothers, because the law says or because the regulation is like that you have to have one child. So mostly, if she has already had one child and she comes for this surrogacy, usually her children are in the age group of infancy, like 0 to 5. Most of the surrogate mothers, they would have their first child in 0 to 5 years. So during that 0 to 5 years gap, what happens is the surrogate mother has a child at home who definitely needs much more motherly care and attention then, because it is that infant stage. The child is kept away from the surrogate mothers. Most often what happens is the relatives come and visit. The children also come and visit. Like while I was doing my study, I saw one child and one woman came, and this surrogate mother said that he's my child, and she spent some time with him, and then they have to go back, and there's a nurse looking after and all those things. And one interesting thing which I found was like the surrogate mothers are given food, right, biscuits and all those nutritional biscuits and all. So one surrogate mother, what she's done is like she's kept in a plastic bag a lot of biscuits. When her child came, she gave it away. She like tried to hide it and give it away because she knows her child can never get to eat that kind of a food. Most of the surrogate mothers are very happy. It's not that they're only worried for their children, but they're happy with the food and the arrangement. They're kept usually in AC. There's a TV, there's a nurse, and there's very well and clean environment. They're given very good food and all those things. But they're deeply concerned about the fact that what is happening to their child. And one surrogate mother, especially I noticed she was very sad and she's not interacting with anybody. So I asked her like, is there in particular issue, like why is she so sad about everything? So she said that my child is back home and it's in Tamil Nadu. And she said that, my child is a girl child and I used to be working in people's houses, like basically domestic maid. So she's put her child in her place, okay, because there's nobody, her husband has left her. So she's like, since my husband has left me and I'm left with this girl child, so I put my girl child to work in my place. So she, again, that represents a different kind of a thing. Like, if the surrogate had this kind of a creche facility, then this kind of a psychological backlog that they are carrying as to what is happening to their child and whatever trauma they're going through, it would not happen. So I think, this is another form of a kind of a very, like it's a traumatic kind of experience that they go through because they're not allowed to talk a lot on the phone, okay? They're not allowed to meet their children. So for 9 months, a mother is kept away from the child. It's not a very nice kind of an idea to be with. Now I will show you some of the case studies like where there has been like properly like there's the couple, like I began my talk with the whole idea that, first they internalize each other's plight. the couple internalizes the plight of the surrogate mother, and surrogate mother internalizes the plight of this one. But what happens when there is, some kind of a disagreement between the couple? Okay, when this empathy which we are talking about, when the couple cannot be empathetic to the surrogate mother and the surrogate mother cannot be empathetic to the couple, what happens? The surrogacy agreement breaks down. So this is one such example of Hans Beasley case in 2008. Is the lawyer, this lady, the other side, right side, she's a lawyer, and this lady is the surrogate mother. And this was hugely reported because what happened in this was in US. The surrogate mother was asked by the couple that, you have three, I think the surrogate mother had twins, and the couple said, we want only one child. So what you do is you abort. She said, no, I won't abort. Okay, and she refused an abortion. And because in the West, the women and the laws are well drafted on surrogacy and they have better rights protecting them, she said, whatever it is, I'm not going to, selectively have one and reduce the other. And she filed a suit against the couple. And she instead sought the damages. She said that it is a breach of the privacy of the contract because they said, they will accept the pregnancy however it comes. Like if the child comes with however disabilities or in number. It's not like a cake ordering that you want one like, made to order sort of thing. It's something like, whatever comes, they will have to accept. But this was one case. And this surrogacy agreement, again, the whole surrogacy fell out. And there's another case. This is also of US. This surrogate mother had a baby with cleft palate, as you can see. And now, this also similar case, but only thing is here the couple offered her certain sum of money. They said that, what? In the ultrasound, they discovered at a certain stage of pregnancy, the child is, being born with a cleft palate and all those things. So they said to the surrogate mother, you abort and you take so much of money. She refused and she gave birth to the child nevertheless. So what happened is this child is born and there was a whole lot of litigation process which was taking place. The couple sent a legal notice that, you had agreed to abort, but, she refused to abort. But at the end, what happened is she went to a different country altogether. This lady, she said that as per her religious belief, she cannot abort. She said that she's very staunchly religious, and once the baby has, grown within her, she fled to a different country. She went to Michigan, and where the laws are more favorable towards the woman who's giving birth. And because she went to Michigan, she gave birth to the child, she got the motherhood right, and then she gave the child in adoption to some other couple. And now the child is being adopted and is living. Of course, is facing health issues, but this is what she did. Yeah, so this is another case. I think this, maybe many people I think are familiar right now. It came a lot in the newspapers. There's another couple, Australian couple, they went to Thailand and there was this girl surrogate mother. She's apparently a vendor, vegetable vendor apparently. She's 21-year-old. She agreed to be surrogate and the surrogate child was born with Down syndrome. This particular, which I have quoted, the Hope for Gammy, she created a Facebook page to receive money because she did not have money to support because the couple rejected the child. The couple took actually another sibling, the girl sibling who was healthy, they left this child with the surrogate, right? So this is the Australian couple, which I have quoted in the newspaper. They take the healthy girl child and they left this child and the surrogate mother had, because of course the surrogate mother, she has felt the baby, she doesn't want to just leave it away. So she took the custody of the child and she collected money. And this Hope for Gammy was, if you still Google it, you will find that a lot of, NGOs are collecting funds for them. And she created this Facebook page where people donated so much money. As you can see, this much is the money which was donated because she could not raise the child for treatment and all those. And a similar case in Australia, of course, I don't have the image and all. There was where in India, the Australian couple came, they had twins, they took the male child and they left the female child. Because apparently they said we wanted only one male child because we already had a girl child. So even if there's another twin born, because it's a girl, we do not want any more girl, we have one girl, so left the child with the surrogate. So basically, why I'm showing you these cases is, this is why empathy is necessary. If you do not empathize with each other, this is what happens. If you are not empathetic to the needs of the other, like when you are in an arrangement, when two people are doing things as a team, or when they have to, the surrogate has to realize that they need the child and they definitely need the child. And the couple also should be responsible and empathetic that, the surrogate, they should not leave or reject the child because she needs the money. She doesn't want to be burdened with another, child again. I wish that, in my research also, in my work, that there has to be surrogacy with more empathy. And when I say empathy, it's more like more human perspective and, more humanistic in nature and not resulting in just a contract. These are some of the proposed lines of thought that, it has to be more altruistic and compassionate in nature. Altruistic, when I say, I do not mean that the surrogate mother need not be paid, but altruistic and compassionate in spirit, like more to promote the charitable spirit. And again, this whole idea of respecting the caregiver and nurturing nature of the surrogate mother. There has to be counseling provided so that both the surrogate and the intending couple empathize with each other. And when I talk about compensation, the only thing is, I think this time we changed that, the whole use of terming that fees and payment into more like compensation, or more like a reasonable compensation worked out, which is, like I mentioned to you in my previous slides, there is no fixed amount of money. So let's work it out that there has to be a reasonable sum of money which has to be paid, and that reasonable sum of money could be taken after, could be calculated after, let's say, medical expenses, maternity clothes, or maybe the creche for the child and other facilities. And again, visitation rights of the surrogate mother, taking from that case which I quoted, the baby M New Jersey case, I think the surrogate mothers need that kind of a respect that, okay, they have given birth to the child, they may be introduced to the child as, somebody who's given them that care, and they can have, let's say, photographs sent, or they can have some amount of visitation rights for them granted. And also, surrogate mother may breastfeed the child. In the present scheme of things, how it happens is, the surrogate mothers give birth to the child, and the hospital gives the child to the couple, right? And then there's no breastfeeding scope. So in the process, what happens is, the child gets affected, and since surrogate mother naturally has breast milk because she goes through the pregnancy, I think it's high time we provide that. It's not going to take away the child. Yeah, and lastly, I will just say that initially I discussed commercial, gestational, all those things, but right now surrogacy is, like everybody knows, it's quite a booming industry, and it has developed into a form of overseas surrogacy. Overseas surrogacy is when the couples from abroad mostly are coming to India or some other countries, they're visiting across borders. They are having surrogacy, that is transnational cross-border surrogacy. And again, there's outsourced pregnancies, basically when in different countries, actually, it is not necessarily to do with India as such, but in different countries, what happens is, they have, like, they go to different country and they take, they hire the services of the surrogate mother, just like any other, manual labor through contract. That is called outsourced pregnancy. So these are new terms and new concepts which are developing in surrogacy right now. And this is the state of the Indian legal affairs right now. Is a legal void. Why? Because there is no law. There's no clear, definitely there's no clarity. Most of the times, even infertility clinics who are running the surrogacy arrangements, they are not aware of the law. They're not aware of the regulation because there are any. And this is my paper which I wrote, which got published in mainstream. This is like, I filed a series of RTI because since there is no law, I filed RTI with a lot of national Women's Commission, Child Commission, state in Karnataka also. I wanted to know, like, what is the exact size of this whole thing of surrogacy? Like, how many surrogate children are born in India? Let alone for, the foreigners, even for the Indian nationals, how many are being born in India? How many are going abroad? Like, basically the couples who are visiting, so how many surrogate children or how many surrogate mothers are actually getting into confinement? But I got most of the things, I found that there are no records. So I wrote a paper on this in mainstream, which actually this paper gives you a detail as to, like, at national level, at regional level, there is no record of how many surrogate mothers are actually being, how many women are being surrogate mothers. Is there any process of registration? We do not know. How many children are born? How many are dying, let's say, infant mortality or maternal mortality for the surrogate mothers? We do not have any records. So this is the plight of the things. These are my articles which I've written on surrogacy. You can, most of them are available online. Most of what I spoke is there in bits and pieces, and some more information is there. If anybody is interested, may have a reading or may have a look. Thank you so much for your patient listening.